Today we're making Milopita. It is a homey rustic Greek cake. This cake is apple on apple on apple. We've got a syrup that's made with apple cider that goes in the batter. We have apples in the cake, and we have a glaze with honey and cider syrup. It's a perfect cake for someone who loves apples. This is a perfect cake to put in your cake dome at the beginning of the week because it lasts really well, and it's just something that you're going to want to snack on all week long. The first thing we're going to do is reduce down some apple cider. We're making like an apple cider syrup. I'm going to use a little cinnamon, orange juice, a little bit of honey, which is classic for this cake, 2 3-inch strips of orange zest. And I'm going to bring this to a simmer and let it cook down for about 5 to 8 minutes until it's about a half a cup of syrup. I want to take out a tablespoon of this, and I'm going to whisk it with another tablespoon of honey, and that's going to be the glaze for this cake. I always love it when you can use an ingredient more than once. So I'm going to put this aside until our cake is ready, and I'm just going to put this in a bowl. And I'm just going to remove the cinnamon stick and the orange and let that cool a little bit. They always tell you to do that if you're selling your house, right? To put something on the stove that smells good. So if your house is for sale, this is the cake. This cake doesn't need a mixer, which is always kind of nice. We're gonna whisk together our dry ingredients. It's our flour, baking powder, baking soda, and a little bit of salt. I'm gonna put that aside. I'm still waiting for my syrup that I made to cool, so I'm gonna peel my apples. So for this recipe, you wanna use an apple that is going to hold together, and not a Granny Smith. That would probably be too tart for this, but you don't want something like a Macintosh that's going to break down. You want those nice big chunks of apple in the cake. We're using a Honeycrisp here. It's a nice sweet apple, but it does hold its shape. We want 1/4-inch chunks for this cake. When you work in a kitchen, it's all the men that love the knife skills, and that's not really my everyone's like just not who I am. Just not who I am. We're going to add a little bit of sugar and some nutmeg and some ground cinnamon. So when they go into the cake, they've got a little something going on. All right, so we have our flour, we have our apples. I'm going to whisk in our sugar, some eggs, and 2 very Mediterranean ingredients, some yogurt and olive oil. And olive oil cakes are great because they stay really moist for a long time. Butter cakes are delicious, but because butter's a solid, it kind of firms up in the cake, whereas olive oil doesn't really do that. So I love an olive oil cake. I'm going to add that to our syrup, and I'm going to add my flour to this. Stir this together until it's pretty combined. It's kind of batter. It's not going to be completely smooth at this point. Add it to the apples. Fold in my apples and make sure they're completely coated in batter. So now that this is all set, this is a 9-inch springform pan. We mist it with cooking spray and added a parchment circle to the bottom because we're going to take the cake out and flip it over when it's done. So we want to be able to get it out. So that's going to go in a 350-degree oven for about 60 to 65 minutes. It's going to rise up and become golden brown, and then we'll let it cool and we'll glaze it. We let this cool for 2 hours in the pan. It looks brown and beautiful. I'm going to run a knife around the edge, and then there is the parchment on the bottom. So what I want to do is invert this. I'll have the parchment. Oh, it smells really good. And this is going to be my serving platter. So pretty. So then remember that glaze that we made. I'm going to brush the top with that. Give it a nice shiny finish. And if you want to, you can hit it with a little powdered sugar. I want to. I always want to. It's all right. So let's cut a piece and see what it looks like inside. We can see some chunks of the apple in there. We like to serve this with a little whipped cream that's whipped with a little yogurt and honey. That kind of complements the cake. Whipped cream is always good if you ask me. Look at how moist that is, and the chunks of apple. It's not quite as sweet as a normal cake because it has that little bit of apple cider in there. I think it's really delicious. It has that, like, you know how an apple cider donut, you can taste that little bit of cider in the back, and it's kind of tangy, but gives it a lot of depth and flavor, and that's exactly what this cake is doing too. Delicious.